course, it says starting in 14 hours, 50 minutes, and 51 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah, it starts, yeah,
Let me get rid of that.
maybe that's what slowed it down.
If mine goes away, let me know.
Okay. It might be what did it, because it's offline for 14 minutes, if the counter stops.
So it's 3 watching now.
Oh, really?
Okay, and then it's starting, the starting in is
Just like,
it's one blank and then. come
Oh,
back.
it did go blank, so that one, you saw that go away?
Yeah, it
You
went
did?
away and then
Oh.
the starting in came back, but without the numbers, and then it went away.
Okay, that's good, because that's what I did. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to, tell me if you see a switch.
Well,
You're fine.
Okay.
He's had the lights.
Quiet on the side.
Welcome to Storefront Theater production held here in Union County Entrepreneurs Studio in Mineral Springs. You'll be entertained with a new play written by Judy Simpson Cook, The View from the Porch. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. Stay tuned at the end so we are streaming live and you can give Judy your comments and ask questions as always. Now, with any further delay, we will welcome Judy performing her own play, The View from the Porch.
Hey y'all, I am so glad to see y'all. I'm glad you could come here for my little gathering. Now come on up here and sit down. There's always room on the front porch for one more. If you get hungry, just go on in the house and get yourself something to eat, okay? Oh, there, you can sit in Papa's old rocker. We had a Mama's old rocker, but Mama invited Great Aunt Eunice, a sizable woman, one time too many. Well, boom, Fanny to the floor, quick as a wink. Now, wasn't funny, Aunt Eunice anyway, but I was sitting on the porch swing right over there, and I thought I would bust a gusset, try not to laugh out loud. I was just a child. Can't honestly say it'd be any different right now if it would happen again. Anyway, Papa told Mama that she could just make do for a seat. He was not fixing that one. He had told her 100 times to quit inviting Aunt Eunice. Now, before all the sizable people whose names are legion get all up in arms, it wasn't because she was heavy set. It was because she talked all the time, was mean as a snake, and he couldn't stand her. Her tumble through the rocker was just icing on the cake. And speaking of icing, when I was little, she taught me to make cookies and cakes and pies, almost every sweet thing you could think of. I liked her so much. Oh, not because of the sweets, although they were doggone good. She gave me the idea to write. Her recipes were priceless. Prance gleefully to the oven and gently but firmly set it for a cozy 350 degrees. Then, with grace and charm, crack 3 eggs in a bowl and beat the hell out of them. She might have been mean, but she sure was imaginative, and I wanted to be just like her. I try to bring some of that imagination to my writing. Of course, I'm not exactly a Nora Ephron or Joyce Carol Oates, and I never will be. I'm the society column writer for the Aurea Democratic Conservative. It's an odd name for a newspaper, I grant you, but as you might imagine, at one time Aurea had 2 newspapers, the Aurea Democrat and the Aurea Conservative Journal. Well, like many papers, they fell upon hard times and they merged. So now, it's the Aurea Democratic Conservative. I call it the D&C. That seems appropriate. Somebody there's always poking into somebody else's business. Well, I guess I just threw my manners out in back of the shed. The least I could do is introduce myself to those of you who don't know me or haven't read my column, heaven forbid. And I could offer you a glass of wine, red or white, whatever you prefer. Of course, I don't drink. I sip. Cheers. I am Arlie Gilbert, daughter of the late Harry Davis Gilbert and Grace Townsend Gilbert, both lifelong residents of Aurea, and who reside at the present time across town in the Aurea Municipal Cemetery. Daddy was a pharmacist at the Aurea drugstore, which is now defunct. Well, it's not totally defunct. The structure still stands, but it has been through numerous nominal incarnations. Eckerd's, Rite Aid, Walgreens, and now CVS. Well, you can buy more stuff now that you don't need with money that you don't have, but it's not as interesting a store. When I was a teenager, I was very interested in Daddy's work. I never could understand why he wouldn't bring home samples. Now, Mama helped out in the drugstore sometimes, but mostly she was just a mama to my brother Austin and me. Now, Austin, he is married to Henny Gilbert. You know Henny, don't you? Oh, she is a piece of work. Oh, I was just on the verge of gossip. I write a column, but I do not write a gossip column. It is informational and inspirational, I hope, and sometimes amusing. More about Henny Gilbert later, as soon as I think up something nice to say about her. Oops, did it again. Speaking of family, I do have a significant other, an associé vie, I like to call him. Robert Truman, R.T. Scarborough is his name, and driving me crazy is his game. No, it's not. He's a wonderful husband. He's retired, which makes him somewhat omnipresent in my life. Sometimes I'm like, just go somewhere, R.T., just go somewhere. But most of the time, he's sweet and supportive as can be. And ooh, does that man know what to do with a grill and a plate of barbecue ribs. My column, The View from the Porch, is intended to inform people in town about what I observe, figuratively, from the porch. Obviously, I can't see into every nook and cranny around town, but I do try to keep up. Mostly, I get compliments, which I appreciate, because my column is intended as an island of amity in an ocean of antagonism. And that's okay with me. I am not interested in stirring up controversy, making people mad. Inspirational, informative, amusing. That's enough for me. But, and that's a big but, do not refer to my columns as cute. I do not like cute. If all you got to say about my column is it's cute, then just keep your thoughts at all. Don't say anything at all. Stitch that on a pillow, why don't you? Anyway, I'm sure it has not gone unnoticed that my name is Aurelie and I live in Aurelia. Now, when I say that something is the most southern thing I have ever heard of, my friends from the North Country tend to get a little huffy. Oh, no, they don't. No, they don't. People from the South get huffy. People from the North get pissed. And while a Southerner under certain circumstances can get pissed, a Northerner cannot get huffy. But I think those friends would be saying to themselves, I'm from Buttsville, New York, not Butts County, Georgia. Hallelujah. Y'all. Yes, those are real, though perhaps unfortunate names, much like mine. My mother seemed to think it a glorious joke to name her daughter from Aurelia, Aurelie. In addition to my mother, everyone else found it quite amusing, except for Aurelie herself. Mama claimed I was named for the song. You know, Aurelie, Aurelie, maid of golden hair, sunshine came along with thee, and something, something air. Oh, you know. That song did not cross her mind when she was labeling me Southern eccentric. Oh, wait a minute, isn't that redundant? You may also notice that I use my maiden name professionally. Maiden name. Ain't that something out of prehistoric nomenclature? Why don't they just say what they meant? What was your name when you were a virgin? Well, I realize I am not the most evolved, most woke woman in the world. I'm not even the most woke woman in Aurelia. But there are certain things in the feminist array of crimes and misdemeanors with which I totally agree. Keep your damn name. You were born with it, you've had it all your life, and unless it's something weird, it has served you faithfully. Keep it. Took me some persuading to get R.T. Scarborough to go along with it, but he was getting such a prize. He knew better than to rock the boat. Besides, nobody in Aurelia would ever get used to calling me Aurelie Elizabeth Gilbert Scarborough. Too many syllables for such a little tiny town. And when I first started to work for the D&C, I was a secretary / errand girl / spell checker, and I was assistant to Miss Mattie Carnes. Now, some of y'all might remember her. She had an advice column. She used to fuss a great deal about dear Abby, claiming dear Abby had stolen her name, the name of her column, which was Dear Miss Mattie. Since Miss Mattie began almost every sentence directed to me with, "Now you listen to me, little girl," I was not about to tell her that dear had been in the dictionary since Merriam met Webster, and it was free, not an exclusive word. Anyone was free to use it. I thought it might be amusing if she had a column called Miss Mattie Says, "Now you listen to me." She didn't laugh when I mentioned it the first time, so I never brought it up again. The problem with Miss Mattie's advice column was that there wasn't a single problem in Aurelia that everybody in town and surrounding counties didn't know about and had weighed in on. Divorces, impending divorces, wild affairs, wrecks, fights, disease, oh yes, especially disease. All said in a whisper. The big C, the big D, the big P. I asked my mother what the big V was. She said I was way too young to hear anything about that. Well, that made me more determined to find out what it was, and I asked everybody I saw on the street and elsewhere. You know, when I asked Mama what the big V was, it'd been all over and done with if she just said vertigo. Now, when Miss Mattie retired, I was offered her advice column. It would stay Dear Mattie because that's what people were used to, and who was going to take advice from me? After all, I was only about 30, just barely married, never divorced, never even tempted by a passionate affair, no children, and no in-law problems to speak of. But I took it on. Dear Miss Mattie, every night my husband is late coming home and he smells of cheap cologne. Do you think he could be having an affair? And what should I do? Signed, a concerned wife. Dear concerned wife, your husband isn't having an affair. He smells of cologne because he's trying to drown out the smell of beer he's been drinking all night at that bar on the county line. Don't try to pretend you don't know it. Everybody in town knows it. Tell him to drink his beer at home or get lost. So I became a reporter, which was fine sometimes. A bridal shower was held at the home of Miss Lynette Hodgkins in honor of Miss Claire Rudisill, eldest daughter of Hubert and Clorinda Rudisill. A good time was had by all. But some of it was horrible. Miss Sadie Milburn has died of pneumonia at the Aurelia Assisted Living Center and Nursing Home. Arlie, write an obituary about that. An accident involving a school bus out on Wildacre Road. Arlie, run out there and see if anybody got hurt. A stabbing, a shooting, a hair pulling. Arlie, go see if anybody got cut, stashed, shot, or bald. A duel. Well, actually, I never covered any duels. That might have been fun, going to a crime scene in a time machine. The thing I hated most, though, were the sporting events. You can probably look at me and know that everything I know about sporting events would not fill a Post-it note. So after a night of colossal boredom, watching the Aurelia High School Airedale varsity basketball team collapse under the skill, commitment, and force from the Fairhope Ferrets, it was all I could do to think of one intelligent question. And this was it. Tommy Richardson, you are a senior and you have very few games left to play. How did you feel about tonight's crushing defeat? It is to the credit of his parents, Worth and Nancy Richardson, that he did not say to me, "Miss Gilbert, you are an idiot. We lost. How do you think I feel?" As an aside, if you're wondering about how area high schools came to have Airedales and Ferrets as mascots, you are living in another world, and if you don't mind my saying so, you should be reading the newspaper more often. I think it's needless to say, but I will say it anyway, I did not belong on the news reporting side of the paper. I moved on to the cooking, cleaning, and petunia section, euphemistically known as home and garden, where I endeavored to bring enlightenment to my Aurelia neighbors about how to make green bean casserole and cherry yum yum, not to mention how to remove water stains from Grandma's old oak pedestal table. I wrote a column once about how to make a peignoir set that will challenge the home seamstress and delight her husband, which, as we all know, is newspaper French for arouse him mercilessly. I don't know how many bird cages were extant in Aurelia at the time, but I'll bet you that column lined the bottoms of every single one. I was much better off when they made me editor of the style section. You may be thinking can't be too much to say about style in Aurelia. Oh, some of us are very stylish. We're cutting edge. Am I not stylish? Is this outfit not the best Belk had to offer at its end of summer closeout sale? And the column wasn't just about style anyway. It was about not only the hoity-toity, but the hoi polloi and all their adventures and causes and parties and whatnot. For example, the Aurelia Women's League is a civic club which raises money for organizations and activities they support. Every year they throw a huge flower and garden show gala which fills their coffers pretty full. As a style columnist, that activity kept me pretty busy for months in advance and weeks afterwards. I had numerous opportunities to interview members of the club. Once I asked their president, Mary Martha Townsend, what they do with all the money that they raise with the gala. She said, "Oh, Aurelie, we give it to any organization or endeavor we believe is a just cause. And to some, just cause." Well, also, I would occasionally try out products of special interest to women and report on their quality, fit, price, etc. Well, let me tell you one thing. I have a special preternatural connection to every kind of manufacturer. And if I like a thing, a lipstick color, a body wash, a headache powder, or a brassiere, believe you me, it'll be discontinued before your next trip to Walmart. When I first began my column, the mayor asked me if it would be political. Well, from Apple phones to xylophones, everything's political these days, but I sure didn't say that to him. I said, "Certainly not, Mr. Mayor. I am not of a political mindset, so I'll be keeping with things I know about and will interest the people of the town." He said, "Well, that's good, Aurelie. Best to keep things civil, isn't it? I'm sure you'll do fine." Huh! I've known our illustrious mayor, William V. Abernathy, all his life. I knew him when he was a Billy in his mama's belly. I knew him when he was a brat stealing candy from Daddy's drugstore. I knew him when he was a juvenile delinquent skipping school. And I knew him when he flunked out of college because he was too lazy to participate in the required activities. And he was high as a kite on pot, most of the time anyway. But now he's the mayor, as pretentious a human being as you will ever come across. Once I had a problem having to do with issues in the historic district where I live. So I called him. Before I could get my problem past my lips, he started talking, and he kept talking, and he kept on talking, and it started to seem like hearing the sound of his own voice was far more interesting to him than anything I had to say. In fact, I had almost forgotten what I called about. Finally, I reached the point where I raised my voice and I said, "You know what, Billy? As a politician who presumably ran for office to serve the people, you might be better served yourself if you did a little less talking and a lot more listening." He was probably insulted, but I didn't care. It's advice most politicians need to take. I guess you could say I wrote something political when I described an incident in a local restaurant, the Betty Claire. Now, although it seemed more of a humor piece at the time, the restaurant owner, Lyman Brown, and our then mayor, Herman Pinninger, both of whom are well into their 60s, got into a shouting match with each other over politics and wound up wallowing around on the restaurant floor in some weak semblance of a wrestling match. I happened to be there, so this is truly an eyewitness report, and I wrote about it. I described it as two old fools make even bigger fools of themselves, wrestling with each other in the dust of the restaurant floor, arguing over their respective political ideologies. They couldn't keep it respectable. Know what response I got? Besides Lyman being mad I said his floor was dusty, most of the responses had to do with me calling them fools. Matthew 5:22 says you'll go to hell for calling somebody a fool, they told me repeatedly. I was flummoxed. Have you seen what some people call each other on social media? And I can't say fool? Well, I calls them as I sees them, and if I bust hell wide open, I'm sure I'll see some of them there. Unlike some of my relatives, I am generally not a hateful person or a rude person, not to mention any names, but on Easter Sunday, Henny Gilbert says to me, "Nice dress, Orly. Isn't it nice that Belks is carrying a larger selection of figure-accommodating sizes?" If she weren't married to my brother. Again, I try personally to not be rude or hateful, but let me tell you one thing, that damn internet is going to be the ruination of the world. Social media, my B-U-T-T, anti-social media is what I call it. People say anything, and half the time it's anonymous. Well, I say, if your position is so weak you won't even admit it's you offering it, then you should just keep your thoughts to yourself. That's what most of us should do anyway. You think you're right and have possibly proofread and checked for grammar, then name it and claim it. Sad to say, many people who trot their thoughts out for all to see on Facebook either skipped grammar class or slept through it. I made this observation on my own Facebook page, and some person, woman I think, responded by telling me I didn't know what I was talking about, grammar didn't matter anyway, and I was, in addition, a word that rhymes with rich or snitch or twitch. Well, let me tell you one thing, that flew all over me. I count this moment as truly the end of my life as who I was and the beginning of it as who I am. I let her have it. Because one subject that is important to me and one for which I have no rival is the proper use of grammar. Unlike everyone else on the face of the earth these days, I do not use myself incorrectly. Me, it's me. 99 and 1000% of the time the sentence calls for me. Not, if you want to go on the church trip, tell Joe, Mary, or myself. No, tell Joe, Mary, or me. Not, that dog belongs to myself. No, 1,000 times no, that dog belongs to me. Me. There's nothing wrong with me. Simmer down, Arlie. Just simmer down. It's a lost cause anyway. Well, I stewed over being called a dog's mother for several days. To no avail, I reminded myself of what my mother used to say. When you hear nothing, say nothing. Finally, in spite of telling myself 1,000 times to just let it go and forget about it, I responded. I said, now you listen to me, girly girl. You have called me a dog's mother. I'm sure you did it to insult me because you were miffed at whatever it was I said on Farcebook. Rest assured, you have not hurt or insulted me in the slightest. Do you know anything about mother dogs? First of all, they give birth to puppies. What could be better? I'll bet it hurts. I'll bet it's a struggle to bring those little creatures into the world. And then she cleans them up, she feeds them, she even licks them on their little newborn faces. And she protects them. If anybody threatens them, she will chew their face clean off. So, if by bitch you mean a caring, loving person who will stand up and protect those she loves, then Katie bar the door, you have hit your target. I'll wear that moniker with pride. And that's where it started. I loved writing about Clorinda Rudisell's fashion-forward trips to Charlotte and Atlanta, about Lynette Hodgkin's newest recipe, about a trip the bunch of the Aurelia ladies took to Paris. It was all lighthearted and fun, but somehow I started to see another side of Aurelia, and I developed some pretty strong opinions about it. I wrote about politics, particularly the inclination of some politics to say what you want to hear and not hear what you want to say. I named no names, but I was warned. I wrote about immigration. I said, you keep letting all these Scandinavians in here, and pretty soon you're going to have a blonde population, and then I guess we'll have more fun than we know what to do with. My sincerest pardon me to the younger generation's president who don't have the slightest idea what I am talking about. But if we want something done about immigration, we need to do something about it. Not just sit around saying we need to do something about it. Make a plan that makes sense and carry it out. Because I, for one, will not be paying $15 for a head of lettuce. I was warned again. I wrote about the treatment of Native Americans. They got here first, then we showed up. You're not the boss of me, they said. Regrettably, they said it in Cherokee or Waisaki or something. We're not understood, and they got run off down that Trail of Tears, lickety-split. Again, I was warned. I even marched for Black Lives Matter in downtown Aurelia. There weren't many white people marching, but for that matter, there weren't that many black people either. I mean, this is Aurelia, but we made a point. Fortunately, the monument that stands on the town square features the names of every person in Aurelia who ever fought in any war, conflict, or police action in which the U.S. participated, so it wasn't necessary to tear it down. Also, there is no Confederate general nobody ever heard tell of standing on the top of it. I got a call from the mayor on that one. What are you doing, Arlie? Out in the street showing your behind and marching like some wannabe revolutionary? Shame on you, Arlie Gilbert. That newspaper ought to fire you. And I was warned again by the mayor, no less. Nevertheless, I persisted. I spent a 40-year career with D&C editor Fred Cunningham ogling me or pawing me. Nothing much I could do about it, so I didn't do anything. Just considered him a total idiot who ought to know better. But when the Me Too movement came along, I saw myself in it and made it clear in my column that men who ogle and paw are unwelcome, unwished for, and not even beginning to be the swashbuckling lady killer they think they are. Contempt, fellas, that's what we feel. And that's what I said. Well, what was editor Fred Cunningham going to say about that? I'll tell you what he said. He said, "You're fired, Arlie. You're fired." And so, you know, that's why I'm sitting out here on my front porch in the middle of workday guzzling, sipping wine. It's a bit of a retirement party. They told me I could submit my resignation to save face. I had become too outspoken, too opinionated. Well, I'm an opinion columnist, for God's sake. Time I grew up and acted like one. I had become a thorn in the flesh of quite a few higher-ups in the town. So I said, fine, I'll go. Can't say I wasn't warned. But I'll be taking my opinions with me, and this won't be the last time you've heard about them. And there won't be anything you can do about them. All my work in life at the D&C, and this is what it comes to. I thought about it a lot. I cried a lot. Cried to RT, cried to the preacher, told my friends at the Aurelia Women's League, and they cried. Conditions have been so wet this summer, I began to feel like I ought to dry up some of this emotional moisture and figure out what the hell to do with myself in the future. I decided I liked protesting and carrying on and trying to make some sort of actual difference in the world of Aurea, if not the world at large. So I'm writing a blog. It'll be on my website, www.nowyoulistentome.com. On the day I left the paper, I went to Fred Cunningham, handed in my letter of resignation, which contained some rather crisp copy, as we say in the writing business, and with my butt positioned securely on my shoulder, I took my leave. But not before throwing out one final punchy retort. Pardon my French, Mr. Cunningham, but you can kiss my derriere au revoir. That's what you've always wanted to do anyway, isn't it? And I left. I'm sorry if I was a little dishonest with you, letting you think I was still at the paper, but sometimes it feels like I still am. I can't quite believe it. 40 years of going to the office, going up the stairs, sitting at my desk, joking and carrying on foolishness with everybody, going to the Betty Claire restaurant for lunch every day with Connie Cato, the receptionist. It made me so sad to leave all that. I couldn't even talk about it or admit it at first. They pretended I resigned, even accepted my resignation letter, but I got fired. No two ways about it. And to think, it wasn't for doing something bad. It was for doing something good. And you know what I realized? I didn't write about those frivolous things like recipes and pantyhose and helpful household hints because I liked it. I wrote about them because I was scared to tackle anything else. I just didn't have the nerve to write about things that were important to me and ignore whatever hissy fits anybody got into over them. Fear is all it was. Oh well, that's that for that. And now it's this. So here's to you, here's to me. Onward and upward to saving the world, one timely, well-reasoned, well-written, and fearless opinion at a time.
You can go ahead and, I don't think we're out here. I don't think we have any.
How long did it take you to to write your play?
Oh, that is one of the hardest questions in the world to answer because you don't write just in a straight streak. You know, you do a little here, a little there. But we talked about doing this probably, a month ago?
Right.
So I didn't have it then.
Pretty quickly.
Yeah, just short of a month. Yeah.
So one of the questions is, how close are the characters to real life people that you knew in the past, or these are just things that you create in your mind?
For the most part, these are things that I create in my mind, although things like this go on in society all the time. I do have a friend who's quite an activist, and I think it surprised her as much as Aurea surprised herself. But no, there's nothing specific. I have a series of plays about the women in the Aurea Women's League,
Right.
and even one about their husbands. So the town is a fictional town, but I envision it as a place that I know.
Okay. Another question is, you have been during the pandemic, you have been doing some things online, some of your recordings and some things like that on YouTube. How different has this been without an audience, but you're actually in a studio? How has that felt to you?
It is. It's very, very different from being on stage. When you're on stage, you might face dead silence, and if you do, you know you're a flop, or people just can't hear you. But here, there's no one to react. There's nothing to feed off of or get a sense of whether people are enjoying it or being touched by it or whatever. It's you and the camera and all the technical work that went into it and goes into it during its presentation.
Right, okay. So are you working on anything else that maybe give us some insight on a new project you're working on, or when's your next play? Do you have anything already set that you're gonna be doing, or would you like to tell everyone here how to get to your YouTube channel to watch things that you do, or what you've been doing over the summer?
Yes, to all of that. Early on in the pandemic, a friend of mine who has performed in my plays in this area, she moved out to Los Angeles, and she got in touch with me to see if I would like to have a Zoom version of my play 1963. So I said, oh yeah, sure. So she pulled together a director and cast, and I sat in on it while they put it together. It's still in the hands of the director being edited, but that will show up on our YouTube channel before too long, which is, you go to YouTube and then you look for TST Waxaw, and you will find us and what we have, which is a series of interviews we've done and will continue to do with the actors that most folks who know Storefront know. And also it has a video of one of my plays called Triptych, very short, a 10-minute play. And then I hope this will be there. So did I answer?
What was the link? Put it up on the screen.
TST Waxaw.
Is that I need like a URL?
Oh, that I
Oh.
can't help you with unless,
Just go to YouTube and
yeah, just go to YouTube and type that in.
Okay, what is it?
TST Waxaw.
Okay, I think that's about all the questions for today, because it's new for all of us.
It is
It's
indeed.
probably new for people trying to figure out how to put some questions in the chat area, but this is all learning. We're all going through a new 2020, and we hope you'll come back and do some more things here at Waxaw. I said Waxaw Entrepreneurs. I've got to steal my brain at Union County Entrepreneurs, and come into our studio and do some more performances.
I would love to. This, as I say, it's not like being on stage,
Right.
but it's still satisfying. It's fun, and it forced me to actually sit down and write something. And I had a long cold spell, so
Yeah.
this is very, very good in many
Very
ways. Thank you for having
There's a
me.
few of us in here, so we can at least give you a clap to make it sound good.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.